Hi, I'm Robin.
And I'm Bill.
Welcome to Not the Retirement Show. This is the second in a series of three videos about starting a business in retirement. And today we're going to focus very intensively on financing. Bill, this is really your specialty, so start us off here.
Well, yeah, obviously the financing is critical. You may have a great idea and you may have excess cash, but you've got to bring all of that together. So the first thing you want to ask is, what are my startup costs? How much will it cost me to get this thing started? And when we talk about startup costs, I also include the first 3, maybe 6 months of running the business with no revenue, no sales, because you've got to get through that period. And I mean, hopefully after 3 or 6 months, you will start to see sales. So when we use the word startup cost, we don't mean how much does it cost to, rent premises or get equipment or, whatever that may be. It also includes, I think anyway, it includes 3 to 6 months of no revenue coming in. Can I continue with the business without any revenue? Because you're going to have expenses that are running. So the first thing you want to look at is working capital, and that's what we would call startup costs. And that could be, the formation of a company and any, legal requirements, legislative requirements in your, your area. All of those things would have to come in under startup costs.
Bill always addresses these subjects from the point of view of a very successful former CEO and company owner. I always come at this from the very opposite corner in the room, where you are the mom in the kitchen and you're going to start a home-based business, making jam or baked goods or something like that. How do I look at these projects? I look at it from, what can I do to start something that makes money, that has practically no startup cost at all? I realized if you're opening a franchise to make hamburgers, that's not how you think at all. But there's an awful lot of us that could really do with an extra $1,000 a month. And those kinds of businesses can be started from your kitchen or your garage, and particularly out of spare parts, out of things that you got at deep discount or things that you are going to assemble. And there is all kinds of free training available. For example, if you are somewhat artistic, you can take a look at YouTube, find an art style or some kind of craft that would sell very well in your area. And all you really have to do is watch the YouTube, practice a couple of times, and then all of a sudden you can be making things and selling them either at yard sales, church fair, art gallery, craft show, whatever the case may be, and you're up and running. The point at which Bill and I completely agree is your project has to be realistic. It has to be something that people will want or use. It's got to be very fairly priced. And the ingredients, the components that you need to make this, they must be sourced in a very affordable way so that there is no risk up front. And they have to be things that will keep indefinitely if sales are slow in the beginning. So don't bake a whole kitchen full of bread if you have no idea how you're going to sell the bread before it goes stale.
Yeah, I think going back though to the working capital issue, because traditionally that would be the type of thing that we'd be talking about, and the working capital, where does it come from? Where do you get that capital? Well, I guess you've got a few places that you could tap into. Obviously, because you're in retirement, you've got a retirement fund, maybe savings and or investments, okay, which we would call capital. But that capital at the moment is generating income for you to sustain your lifestyle, etc., to handle your day-over-day expenses. So the question then would become, would you want to take your working capital for your new business, take that away from, let's just say, the retirement fund? Because couple of things are going to happen. One is you're going to reduce the income that's generated from the retirement fund, through dividends or interest, etc. If you take some capital out of the retirement fund and put it into your new business, you're therefore going to reduce the the investment income, etc., coming out of the retirement fund or the pension. Okay, so you got to think about that. And I mean, the other aspect of using the retirement fund is that if you blow it, so to speak, within the first year or whatever sort of thing, then you're probably never going to be able to reimburse that retirement fund. So therefore, for the rest of your life, you're going to have a reduced income coming from dividends, and interest. I mean, obviously, you can go to friends and family to see if they would, help you out just a little bit. That's okay. I think that's slightly dangerous in my opinion. I think you should, fly on your own. As I say, through a retirement fund or whatever. I mean, obviously you can go and get a bank loan. If your collateral is good enough, then, you can go and get a bank loan. And I mean, obviously, if the business is much bigger or becomes much bigger, then you go into what we would call equity financing. In other words, you would invite other people to come in and buy shares in your company. But, that's quite a bit further down the line, I think.
I agree with absolutely everything that Bill has just said. And now I want to talk about that home-based small enterprise. How are you going to avoid touching the retirement fund at all? Because in your case, you're most likely starting this because you actually need the money, which means you don't want to risk whatever retirement savings or retirement income you have, because it's not enough already. Or this is just a hobby to keep your mind active and entertained. And once again, you don't want to risk your retirement fund. Okay, let's be real. You're over the age of 60, you've got a household full of stuff. Take a good hard look around. What can you sell that you don't need, you're never going to miss, and it will free up the $1,000 or whatever it is that you need to start this absolutely great little home-based business. And if you're telling me that you haven't got anything, then you haven't got the right business idea, because trust me, if you have the right business idea, the ideas will come. I'm going to give you the perfect one. What kind of car is in your driveway? If it is a big, fancy, 4-seater family sedan type thing, do you really need that anymore? How much could you sell that for? Get a smaller, more economical car and free up a little bit of cash to start the business, and you still have what you need, something to drive around in, something to start the business with, and you haven't touched the retirement fund. You've got to be creative in your thinking.
I think the last point that I would want to, briefly chat about would be pricing. And things like profit margin. In other words, how much you're going to, whatever it is you're doing, your goods or your services, whatever, how much you're going to price it at to hopefully get business. And what sort of profit margin would you be looking for? There are a couple of things there. I call it hobby pricing. And the hobby pricing is you're doing something that you've always wanted to do. You're having a great time. You are selling something, but you're not desperately wanting to make much profit, if any. You're just quite happy to be doing this. You don't want to do it for nothing, but your profit margin is almost zero. I mean, it could even be minus. A lot of people in the retirement years, in a business, actually don't take any income. They don't take any salary. They're quite happy to either reinvest profits into the business, or they just keep it going for the sake of being happy, giving themselves something to do. So as I say, things like hobby pricing, I think, is something you would want to think about. Do you need to take a salary? Do you want to take a salary? If you need to take a salary, you got to make sure that your financial projections are pretty solid. If you just say, well, a little bit of extra cash would be fine, but that's probably the smaller type of business where that would apply. If you really want to talk about a sustainable, larger type of business, then you are going to have to look at pricing and profit margins, and you've got to be very careful how you do all of that.
Once again, I agree with everything Bill just said, but if you're listening to me, it means you actually need to make some money. So the number one thing to do here is you've got to understand exactly down to the penny what it actually costs to make the thing that you're selling. Because if you don't work that out, you aren't going to make a profit and it won't be sustainable and you'll actually lose money. If you're baking muffins, you must know the cost of the amount of flour that actually goes into one muffin, not just what the bag costs. You've got to know what that muffin costs so you know what to charge. And the other thing is, Bill made an excellent point when he said, you've got to figure out what cost the market will bear for the thing that you're selling. It could be the most delicious jam in the world, but unless you have a place where you can sell it for $10 a jar, you can't price it at $10 a jar just because that's what it costs you to make it. So there's an awful lot of thinking and planning that goes into all of this before you launch your business.
Yeah, a lot of things to think about there. The financial consequences is the bedrock of any business, be it large, be it small, doesn't matter. That's a bedrock. You've got to be very, very careful. If you need a financial advisor, go get one. If you don't understand how to work spreadsheets, go and talk to your grandkids. They'll show you how to do that. But you've got to have a very, very good idea what the pricing models are going to look like, startup costs, etc. So there you go. There's a lot more about financing than perhaps meets the eye, but hopefully that's given you some beginning thinking on it.
Think carefully. We know you can do it. If you're still listening, we must have said something helpful or insightful. So please subscribe to our channel and we'll chat with you again soon.